Guys, you are never gonna believe what happened. It's Sabbath. Typically on Sabbath, which is my Friday, I take the day, I do what we need to in the morning for our animals, maybe a load of laundry, and then the rest of the day I take the day off and we just spend time as a family. However, I was given 100 pounds of blueberries today. Now, this works out in my favor because I have not had anything to can for my garden this year so far. So with blueberries, I feel like I have two choices. One, I could either can them, or two, I could put them in my freezer. Since my freezer space is limited, with planning on putting almost 100 chickens in it, plus turkeys, I thought, okay, it's time. I'm gonna learn how to can blueberries. We're gonna do this. So, come along with me as we do it. I'll go over a few points. First off, I know that canning blueberries is a little different. You can't put them in smoothies. I figure though we'll probably end up with more blueberries through the season because that's what Joseph does. He's a blueberry farmer. So I'm gonna use my pressure canner. This gorgeous pressure canner here was a gift passed down from an aunt who had it sitting in her basement, and I was really excited to get it. It is old and it's not fancy, but it works on my glass top stove. Most of the time you can't get pressure canners up to a high enough temperature to work on the glass top stove, and this one does. I'm going to be using large jars. The reason I'm using large jars is because I can get more in them, and typically for anything that I'd be using canned blueberries for, like in muffins, pancakes, even I could put them in a blueberry pie if I wanted to, I'm gonna want a bigger amount versus a smaller amount. So I'm going to go ahead and use the quart size jar. And then of course, I have the gorgeous blueberries. These things are beautiful. They were too soft for anyone to sell. And so I was given them to sort through and go about putting them up for the year. This is a real blessing to our family as I have not had anything to put up from the garden. So far, our garden has produced enough for me to do one glory box, and Glory the Garden has made enough for us to have one meal with fried eggplant and one set of cucumber slicers. I have high hopes that as we move forward in the season, we will get more things, but that our season is delayed means that I have time to can this stuff. So I'm taking the evening of my Sabbath to spend some time with my mother, and we are going to can blueberries. Step one is cleaning the jars. So I'm gonna take these jars right here. I'm gonna put them in this sink, and I'm gonna put them in hot water with soap. We're gonna clean the jars and get them ready to go into the pressure canner. Now that those are going, I'm gonna actually take the blueberries and start cleaning them. So what I have to do is rinse them, de-stem them, and get them ready to go into those jars. That look like this, and we are also taking off any ones that have stems, pulling off the stems so that we're not getting any stems or yucky blueberries inside of our jars. I'm gonna grab a second strainer, and while one person is sorting through these, another person can be sorting out blueberries. It's really nice to have a second person helping. This is my mom. Mom, Luann. She comes up from Oklahoma every single year. Wave hi, Mom. And she comes for the month of July while Joseph is super busy in the blueberry field and hangs out with me and the kids. We have a grand time, go to the beach sometimes, but she also helps me with all of my projects, which is super fun. So now that we have washed and sorted some berries, washed some jars, I'm going to take them and I'm going to put the blueberries into the jar. And we're going to fill this up. Now, supposedly this should take about 3 pounds of blueberries. I'm not sure. So I'll probably end up weighing one of these jars just to see how many it takes to fill up a quart jar, and we'll go from there. So now I'm going to weigh these and see how many pounds of blueberries I can truly get into this. There's flour all over my scale because I made some bread the other day and it never got cleaned off. So I'm ending up with 1 pound, 4 ounces of blueberries in this jar. So not quite the 3 pounds I've been told would go in here. So maybe it's just 3 cups of blueberries and they got that wrong. Like I said, I've never done this before, so I wasn't sure. But yeah, we're gonna keep going at this and pack as many as we can. You want to leave a 1/2 inch of headspace so that I can put the water in and nothing will overflow. Now I'm going to continue washing and sorting berries while my mom does jar filling. The next part of this is filling the jars with hot water, and then we're going to put them in the pressure canner with the weight off. The reason we're putting the weight off is we want the pressure canner to come up to temperature before we put the weight on, and then we will cook them at 6 pounds of pressure for 8 minutes. And the only reason this pressure canner works on my glass top stove is because I have a bridge here that I can have these 2 burners and the bridge going all at the same time, and it has an extremely flat bottom. I have always been told that people have an extremely hard time pressure canning on a glass top stove, and this is the only one I have known to work. So I've got my hot water and I've got my jars, and I'm just going to pour the water into the jar. Again, we're leaving a 1/2 inch of headspace so that the jar can process properly. The last piece before putting these jars into the pressure canner is going to be screwing the lids on. I heated up the lid so the seal is nice and soft. I'm going to screw them on the jars, and I'm going to place the jars into the pressure canner and put the lid on and start it heating up. Now it's time to put the lid on, start the heat on this, and wait till it's starting to steam out this spout right here. Now we wait. So if you listen, you can hear, and if you look, you can see a little bit of steam and stuff coming out the top there. So it's now time to put on the weight. There are no weight marks on this. This is really old. So I'm just gonna put the weight on. It'll come up to pressure, and I will see this little gauge go up. Once it gets up to 6, I am going to turn my heat down to medium, and it tends to hold its pressure perfectly. Up and up and up it goes. And now, got 3 pounds of pressure. We'll be there soon. A couple more minutes. You can see it's going pretty fast. You just have to get it, and almost 4. We have reached 6 pounds of pressure. Now I am setting a timer for 8 minutes. I don't know if I remember to tell you before, but I put 2 inches of water at the bottom of this, and that is how it is boiling. We just finished the timer. I pulled it off the heat, and I am letting the pressure come down. Once this part, which is my pressure sensor, goes down, I will then remove that, and I can completely take this apart and pull the cans out. Before it does, you do not do it. This will explode in your face. We do not want exploding pressure canners. So now that I am down to 0 pounds of pressure, I'm going to remove this with my fancy Mickey hand, trying not to burn myself. And we'll let the rest of that pressure go down and just let it sit for a few minutes. And I just keep puttering on making more of these jars, getting it ready to go, and sorting out more blueberries while I'm waiting for this to cool off. So there's no time wasted here when we're doing stuff. It's all used for doing other things. Whether I'm filling jars, sorting blueberries, getting the hot water ready to go, I'm doing something to work towards getting this done. This is the scary part. I'm going to very carefully open this and pull out the jars. The idea is that nothing explodes. Nothing explodes. For one thing with pressure canning that I am always stressed about, it doesn't matter how many times I do it. I always feel like it's going to explode on me. I know that it won't necessarily will. It just feels like it's going to. I'm using old equipment. I know that it's not 100%, so something could go wrong. I have done this probably 40 or 50 times. Nothing has gone wrong. So I continue to pray and say, God, just let this be safe, let it be good. But I'm going to set the jars on this cooling rack, which was holding my bread, and we're going to put another batch in. Always open it away from you. That way the steam goes out, and you can then look and see if any jars have erupted, which a couple looks like they leaked. Might have tightened them down just a little bit too tight. As I said, I'm extra careful getting the jars out of there. I'm actually going to switch this glove to this hand and start lifting the jars out one by one. Get the water off of them and make sure we have no cracks. And set it down. There we go. Now I'm going to do the rest of the jars. Last thing to do with this is just let them cool down and then we'll have some canned blueberries. I hope you enjoyed canning blueberries with me today and learned something along the way. We'll see you guys next week.